All right, it is that time once again. Welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends here at Mile High Sports. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network. And I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets and an upcoming schedule that I think is going to shift a lot of how people view who the Denver Nuggets are and maybe even how the Nuggets might view themselves. Certainly, how fans are going to view this situation. And look, fans are going to try to hold out hope for as long as possible, but it has felt like over the course of these 3 months that faith in the Nuggets has waned. Faith in the Nuggets has been put to the test, given the injury situations, given the lack of defense, given the failures and clutch moments and things like that. Nuggets fans feel very stressed about this season and for good reason. And so I'm going to talk about this next 7 games, including a back to back that is tonight and tomorrow with the Lakers and the Knicks, that is going to shift how people see this Denver Nuggets team. And I'm looking forward to it for sure. Going to be a lot of fun. If make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really appreciate it. If you're listening along on the audio side of things, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, hit that with a 5-star review. Would really appreciate it there as well. Okay, we're gonna in the first segment we'll talk about the 7-game stretch here. In the second segment, I want to go over the top 7 contenders in the NBA right now and my general thoughts on where the NBA title landscape is at. And then third segment, we will do a couple roster moves with Tyus Jones and David Roddy and some other things that the Nuggets are kind of doing in the background and how I think that this is going to go. So it will be good to see. Hello to Oz Columbia. Hello, FU 2006. How are the vibes today? He or she asks. Vibes are okay. It was good to get a report from Sam Amick, who I saw on Monday at the Nuggets game, I'm pretty sure. Sam Amick of The Athletic, good friend. We shook hands. It was nice to see him. And he put out a report on Wednesday that Aaron Gordon is targeting a return for Friday. Not for today, not for Thursday. He's out along with Peyton Watson and I believe Spencer Jones is also out, I want to say. So it's going to be Cam Johnson. And if he's back and questionable and Denver's going to have some stressors in how to guard Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves and LeBron James, and it's going to be a very tough game for them. And so obviously, when you're down as many guys and certain defenders as you are, Denver's going to have some struggles. So we'll go over that in just a little bit here as well. But going to be interesting to see. So vibes aren't necessarily great. Vibes are not super awesome. Man, the dog just keeps. You guys probably can't hear it, but the same dog walks past my door every single day. It just barks and just goes crazy. It's a very physical bark as well, if that makes sense. So we'll talk about the 7-game stretch here. Let's start with that. I think that these next 7 games for a lot of people, I put this on the thumbnail, I put this in the title. The next 7 games will change Denver Nuggets history. And is that a little bit dramatic? Sure, of course. It's a title where we're trying to get people into the flow and get people to talk about the Nuggets and get people to care about this stretch of regular season games. This is games number 63 to 69 of the season. Nice. And this to me is the stretch of games in March here, like first half of March, not necessarily the second half of March where teams are starting to really rest and you've got the tankers that are, everybody's already tanking really hard, but Denver doesn't have to worry about those teams. They're worried about the teams that are trying, and all of these teams are trying. Let's go through it really quick. You've got the Lakers tonight. You've got the Knicks on the second night of a back-to-back tomorrow. You have 2 days off before you go at OKC again. That's going to be a pretty tough one for obvious reasons. They're hoping to get Jalen Williams back. We'll see whether they get back. I think Alex Caruso got hurt in the game last night against the Knicks for them, but that's a tough one. You've got the Houston Rockets as your fourth game. That is with a day off in between. Back to back at San Antonio. That's a really tough one. And then you go at the Lakers. That's another tough one. And then you wrap up coming home versus the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm not sure whether Joel Embiid will be back by then. Pretty sure that Paul George will be out still with his PED suspension. But the Sixers are obviously trying. They're not in a great place right now from a health perspective, but if Joel Embiid plays, I'm not expecting him to play, obviously. But if he does, then that's a tough matchup. Of course it is. It's all these teams are trying. All these teams are really going hard. After that, you get games like Memphis, Toronto, Portland, Phoenix, Dallas, Utah, Golden State, Utah again. And so it's a more even mix in terms of teams that are trying and teams that are not. But this defined 7-game stretch, 5 teams in the Western Conference, 1 team in the Eastern Conference in New York that has title aspirations this year, and 1 team in Philly that holding on for dear life, but when they are healthy, they are very good. So, like, this to me is the stretch of games. It is the period of time throughout this season where if you are the Nuggets, it matters the most in terms of what you've gone through already, what you have seen in yourself already, the issues that you have already unearthed and sussed out and figured out, okay, these are the things that we have to work on. These are the things that we have to get better at. They've gone through multiple iterations and health periods in terms of like how hard can Denver go in some of these cases? How not hard can they go in some of these cases? What is it going to look like if they're really going all out in these situations? There are 2 back-to-backs here. So Denver's probably not going to win on the second night of back-to-backs in either of those games. Now, and certainly if they do end up getting back Aaron Gordon and or Peyton Watson in the stretch, I seriously hope those guys don't play on the front and the back end of a back-to-back. So Denver's going to be shorthanded in those situations again. But yet it doesn't matter because other teams are going through back-to-backs too. Other teams are going through their own situations. They are absolutely trying to take it out on Denver in a situation where Denver feels a little bit more vulnerable than they have in any of the past seasons. Well, last year I think they were vulnerable, but this year they're looking just as vulnerable from a statistical perspective. Like this year and last year, they're about the same in terms of how good they actually have been. Now, that might be a little bit disingenuous given that last year's team just wasn't as complete. But this year's team hasn't had that completeness because they've been hurt the entire time. And so the hope is that during the stretch, during these 7 games, you start to get back guys that are healthy. Aaron Gordon, of course, targeting the return on Friday. Peyton Watson seems like he's pretty close, not as close as Aaron. I thought that he would beat Aaron back, but he's clearly taking his time, and I understand why. He doesn't want to develop a significant long-term injury in a contract year. There's something to be said for that. But also, like, he doesn't want to push it because he also had a hamstring injury. And I think the team is learning their lesson in terms of how hard you should go after a hamstring injury. Duh. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Denver can do. And I'm looking to see how they match up with some of the best teams in the NBA. As I mentioned previously, in last episode, I finished up that episode with a stat that against the top 10 point differential teams in the entire NBA, the Nuggets ranked 14th in defense. That is actually 13th now. Looking at it, they have the 8th highest point differential in the NBA against the top 10 teams. They have the 3rd best offense and the 13th best defense. That's ridiculous. That's pretty impressive. Their offense hasn't been perfect, but like teams like the Clippers are higher than they probably should be in offense. So Denver's been well above average on the offensive end, and they've been average to above so on the defensive end against some of these top teams when they've been able to get up for these games. And they want to get up for these games, undoubtedly. And now they've got every opportunity to over the course of these next 7. The top 10 teams in the NBA from a point differential standpoint are as follows. You have the Oklahoma City Thunder. Denver's going to play them. You have Detroit and Boston. Denver's already played them. They lost to Detroit both times, and then they beat Boston both times. So pretty impressive. Boston, by the way, getting back Jason Tatum, it's at least an interesting wrinkle in the Eastern Conference playoff race, that's for sure. San Antonio. Denver will play them not just once, but 3 times the rest of the season. Once during this stretch, but then they will play them on Game 78 on April 4th, as well as game number 82, the final game of the season. I'm not expecting that one to matter. So Denver actually caught a break with the scheduling there, I think. But they'll play San Antonio. So they're playing OKC. They're playing San Antonio. They're playing Houston, who is 5th in the NBA. They're playing New York, who's 6th in the NBA. They've already played Minnesota 4 times. They went 3-1 against Minnesota. That was pretty good. Like they did a pretty good job against Minnesota. But the last one did not do them any favors in terms of how they looked and how it felt. They played against Cleveland twice. They lost. I'm pretty sure they lost both of those games. One of them was a pretty horrid defensive performance. The other one was without Jokic, and so I'm not really counting that one in terms of how I think about each team. Denver's 9th, and then Charlotte is 10th, which is insane. Charlotte is 10th, which is crazy. But Denver's got a lot of matchups here, and they've got a lot of opportunities to prove just how good they can be. I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like. I'm looking forward to seeing how they fare here. When they face the Lakers tonight, like a lot of the messaging around the Lakers specifically is that they are really going for this game. Like, obviously they care about every Nuggets game, not just fans, but like JJ Redick really tries to pull out all the stops and trying to figure out how to match up with this Nuggets team. Denver's not going to get back Aaron Gordon and guys of that nature for this matchup. So Denver, like in some of the same situations that they had against the Utah Jazz, where you've got small guys that are scrambling and trying to deny Jokic, you're going to have the same thing in this particular game, whether it's Austin Reeves or Luka Doncic or LeBron or like maybe Jackson Hayes is going to play a little bit more defensively. DeAndre Ayton will play less defensively in this case. Although DeAndre Ayton, it wouldn't surprise me if he went like for 16 to 20 points on 8 of 12 or 7 of 13 or something around there. Denver's going to have to ensure that they're not giving up wide open stuff to anybody. And so like Denver's going to be pretty compromised from an offensive and defensive end in this game. And so they're going to have to really figure out how to defeat this scrambling defense. It's on Jokic. It's on the Nuggets. I was at practice yesterday, and you could tell that there's a couple of different wordings about it. Like Jonas Valanciunas said that there was nothing more annoying than being guarded by a smaller player, in part because you cannot just push them out of the way. You can't like use your body. They can do everything to you, but you just can't do everything to them. And so all you can do is try to battle and be like physically dominant on a consistent basis. And so if you're Jokic, you got to get busy on the offensive glass. You're Jonas, you got to get busy on the offensive glass. Take advantage of your size matchup there. And then the hope is that you get fouled in those situations or you get easy putbacks and things like that. But the Nuggets are going to have to operate without Jokic touching the ball in some of these cases. That was the thing that the Lakers did last year that really flummoxed Denver. Everything often runs through Jokic. You have to be in a situation where you can survive when he doesn't touch the basketball. You can't force feed it all the time. All you have to do is get comfortable playing in a situation where Jokic looks a lot more like a traditional big man as opposed to the best player in the world. Serbians aren't going to like that. They want to see him touch the ball. They want to see Denver force feeding him the ball in these situations. But if the pass is not there, then you can't force it or turnovers will happen. Or Jokic will just miss a shot that he normally makes because there's 7 guys around him somehow. So you have to be smart about it. You have to take advantage of the spacing. Tim Hardaway Jr.'s got to hit more threes than he did last game. That's for sure. Cam Johnson got to get a little bit more aggressive if he does play. hit the threes, hit the spacing, back cut behind them. Christian Brown, the best way that he was able to handle the Boston OKC defense when they were scrambling was he just took a whole bunch of threes. Take the threes. They are there. There's no doubt that you can make it happen. Julian Strawther, same thing. Like, I have zero doubt that Julian Strawther can hit a whole bunch of threes. But Denver, if they play their starting lineup, which has been Murray, Christian Brown, Julian Strawther, Cam Johnson, like if he does play, and then Jokic, who guards Luka? Probably Christian. Who guards LeBron? Cam Johnson on a bad ankle? Who guards Austin Reeves? Julian Strawther or Jamal Murray? Like, Denver's compromised from a defensive standpoint with the issues that they've had. So this one's going to be tough. Denver's going to have to win an offensive game, but I think the Lakers are going to be in a situation where they are better at taking Denver down a peg than what Denver's going to be able to do to them. So I'm curious to see what happens with it, curious to see how they handle it. Why don't we take a break? When we come back, we'll go over the Knicks game tomorrow, and then I am going to talk about the top 7 contenders in the NBA as I see them right now. And of course, my word is law because I am so cool. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. But first, I want to tell you guys a little bit about the Vimos app. Very excited to have Vimos as a sponsor for the show. They do a great job when you're trying to go out and, like, I'm somebody they have to drag out. I'm somebody that, like, obviously I'm very comfortable hanging out, playing video games, especially as this job has done it to me. Like, I'm in front of the camera so often and, like, in front of people so often with this that sometimes I just want to rest at home. But if I'm going out and if I am trying to be a little bit more social, I want my experience to be good. I don't want to be wasting a whole bunch of time at a bar or a place that I don't really like, having drinks that I don't really care for. So the Vimos app makes things so much easier, more productive, more fun. It remembers your habits and tracks what you like, and then directs you towards situations and places and restaurants and food types and styles and just places that you actually want to go and you want to be there. You'll have more fun using this app. In one place, you can pay for your drinks, redeem offers, set up events, and do contactless payments. You can even scan in your ID without handing it over to somebody you do not trust. In other words, this is just a great app for everybody to have if you're trying to be more active going out and do the things you want to do with your friends, with your family. So check out the Vimos app, spelled VEMOS, and have a better night out. We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll.
When I go to court, these aren't my clients. These are my friends. These are people that I believe in. And they have one shot, just one shot for justice. If they've come to me and we've gotten to trial, their life has been turned upside down in some awful way. I'm all they have. So if I haven't put the time in, if I haven't trained, if I haven't humbly looked in the mirror and thought about ways I can be better, and I don't present my best self in court, then I failed them. And that's what motivates me as a trial lawyer, because when this is over, that client goes home. And if I haven't done my best for him, I haven't been his champion, then I've failed.
All right. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Folks, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Saw somebody say the title's a little bit misleading. I think the reason why I framed it this way is because if Denver can handle these 7 games professionally and you get back guys like Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson and you look like the team you assume to be when healthy, that's how I was framing it. That's how I was thinking about it. There's a possibility that Denver gets back the guys that they like. They get back those players. They get to play the styles that they want to, and they're just not good enough. Or it takes a little bit to really start to relearn things. I don't think that Denver has the time for that. Now, maybe they do. Maybe I'm underselling it at least a little bit. But I think the way that Denver handles this in terms of, hey, can you actually win a clutch game against a playoff team? Hey, can you actually like lock in defensively on a consistent basis? Hey, when teams are frustrating the ever loving hell out of Jokic, how do you respond when you've got the right personnel out there as opposed to compromised personnel that you've had for a long time? The Lakers game is not going to be that. They still have guys that are out, but I do expect Aaron Gordon to come back, Peyton Watson to come back at some point here soon. And if that's the case, then Denver will be in a better place. And I think people will think about them a little bit differently if they're able to have some like high profile victories. Because when was the last time that Denver had a victory that you were proud of in terms of like the other team wasn't compromised from a back to back or the other team didn't suck? Like there's a different like feeling there when you can have some games against teams that actually are good. And Denver hasn't had that in a long time that you can actually feel comfortable about how they will play when the lights get bright again. So I'm curious to see what they do. Talking about the Knicks here real quick, they faced OKC last night, lost by 3 points in the Garden. I think that, look, they're traveling to Denver today, I believe, and will try to get adjusted to the altitude and whatnot. But that's going to be a tough matchup for them. And yet the Knicks are always a tough matchup for Denver specifically. Jalen Brunson's a guy that they really struggle guarding. And in this game against OKC, he had 15 assists and probably could have had 25 with the amount of shots that were bricked or turnovers that were had from New York. And after Jalen Brunson passes, like those guys could have probably given him 20 to 25 assists. He only had 15, and that was the reason that they lost. But Brunson's a tough cover. He's a tough cover for anybody. For Christian Brown specifically, like that's a tougher matchup for Christian. He did a pretty good job the first time these two teams played. It was the second night of a back-to-back after playing in Detroit the night before, and it was Christian's second night back as a player. And I thought he handled himself pretty well, despite the fact that Brunson had a really great game. Like that, he did bother Jalen in some ways. Now, the way that Case and Wallace, Lou Dort, and Alex Caruso and guys like that can bother Jalen Brunson's a little bit different from Christian, who is 6'6", 6'7", less about the quick guards and more about the stockier wings and guys who usually push some other people around that they can't really push around Christian as much. So there are certain matchups where Christian will excel. That one I don't think is one. And the Karl-Anthony Towns matchup is one that I don't think that Jokic will excel in. Now, Towns wasn't amazing in that first matchup, and he fouled out. So, like, there's an opportunity for Jokic, and actually Towns fouled out again in this OKC game. So there is an opportunity for Denver to put pressure on the Knicks, but then you've got Mitchell Robinson coming in. You've got OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart already there. They've got Jose Alvarado and now Jeremy Sohan off the bench and some other guys like Deuce McBride. I'm not sure what their injury report's going to look like, but that is going to be a tough matchup as well. And it's the second night of a back-to-back. Now, if Aaron Gordon is targeting a return for that night, there's just such an emotional lift that happens there that I wonder if that could give Denver a little bit of a boost. But like, that's a tough matchup to come back to because there's nobody for Aaron specifically to guard. OG Anunoby is going to spot up, and he shot 4 of 13 from 3 for OKC. Is Aaron just going to guard OG Anunoby on the perimeter? Maybe that's an easier matchup for him as a result, but it means that he's going to have to stay connected, and the Nuggets are going to have to figure some stuff out. So I'm curious what it looks like. I'm curious how Denver handles it, but if they get him back, obviously that's a big deal. Obviously, like he goes immediately back into the starting lineup, I bet, at that point. And while he will play 20 to 25 minutes as opposed to 30 to 35 on a minutes restriction, it will still give Denver so much of a boost just mentally in terms of being able to handle that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he has. I mean, the most important thing, the most valuable thing, it's going to be a lot of fun. So we will see what happens. And then obviously, if we've got the next 5 games after that, you've got Lakers, Knicks, Thunder, Rockets, Spurs, Lakers again, and then Sixers. Like, as I mentioned, I think that Denver goes, I think they go 4-3 in this stretch. I think that they are going to surprise some people in terms of being able to get healthy, being able to show what it looks like. But like, they're not going to go 7-0. They're not going to go 6-1. They're probably not going to go 5-2. Like, there's more downside risk here than upside risk because Denver's got some pretty tough matchups. They're on the second night of a back-to-back on two separate occasions. They're going to be shorthanded. They still are not fully healthy. And until they get everybody back, like, David Adelman still has to make some pretty tough decisions, and Denver still has to figure some things out that they otherwise wouldn't have to. So I'm curious to see how they handle it, but 4-3 is where I will predict. But now let's quickly go over top 7 contenders in the NBA right now. To me, are as follows. The first one is the Oklahoma City Thunder. No team has gone back to back in the last 7 years. Like, that's true. Every team has gone through their different iterations. You had the Warriors in 2018. You had the Raptors in 2019. You had the Lakers in 2020, the Bucks in 21, the Warriors again in 22, different iteration of them. You had the Nuggets in 23. You had the Celtics in 24. And then you had the Thunder in 2025. All of those teams the year after really struggled at various points, but they did look great at some points. Like, there were the highs that you would normally expect. Like Boston last year, like, they won in 24, and then in 25 they looked great. They looked great for like much of that season. They won 60 games. It was pretty easy for them. But then things just kind of fell apart. They had injuries at the wrong time. Sound familiar? Nuggets had the same thing happen to them. The Warriors, that was a different sort of situation for sure, because they were at their last hurrah. Denver's not at that situation, although they're getting a little bit closer. And so Denver, OKC, they have the energy and the youth to kind of get over that. But I do think that, like, they're still by far the best team in the NBA to me in terms of what they provide on a regular game by game basis. Now, they are not perfect when it comes to facing top 10 teams. There are teams that give them some issues. The Nuggets can give them some issues. The Spurs have given them some issues. Detroit, when they battle against Detroit's done pretty well. Boston looks pretty good in some of those situations. Not perfect, but pretty good. So, like, there are teams that can beat them, but I don't think that they should be favored. Like, OKC should be favored in these situations. Number 2 to me is, I think it's Detroit. I think Detroit has, I actually don't know how I feel about that. No, we'll go with Detroit. Detroit to me has the formula of getting through the playoffs with a whole bunch of defensive guys. And then Cade Cunningham's just a better player than he was last year, in which he got his first playoff experience. It kind of reminds me of OKC in 24 when they ran into the Dallas Mavericks on their way to the finals. I think that, like, there's still many things that they can do. There's still many things that they can figure out. Detroit's offense, I know Scam Johnson's back here. He says is bad outside of Cade. I understand that take. It's not like a traditional generation of offense, but like, they can play a whole bunch of defensive lineups and be pretty successful that way too. Like, going with 5 defenders at the same time, and guys like Asar Thompson, Isaiah Stewart, Ron Holland, Jalen Duren if he was to stagger, and like Dennis Jenkins, or you get Duncan Robinson out there. Like, if Duncan Robinson's your only weak link, you're doing pretty well defensively, and that's why they have the second best defense in the entire NBA this year. So you're right that their offense isn't perfect. It will probably be their downfall at some point, but I'm not sure if it's going to be their downfall until at least the Eastern Conference Finals. But we'll see. Like, they are a classic young team that could falter early, despite the fact that they have a really successful year, because a team that is a more veteran team rises above them. I will go with New York at 3. I think New York actually has a lot of exciting things about them. The players that they've added this year, They have a really good mix. It's going to be relatively inefficient at times, but to me, as long as Towns like has a good playoffs and not a bad playoffs, then they have a lot of really great qualities. Like them and the Pistons, I think like that's a tough matchup. That's a tough matchup for both of those teams for completely different reasons. But I think the Knicks are pretty good. I'll go with San Antonio at 4. San Antonio has proven that they deserve a whole bunch of respect. They have proven that I, certainly during the regular season, they have a whole bunch of different ways that they could beat you. They could beat you with offense. They can beat you with defense. They have mismatches all over the court. They've got guys in the clutch that they can go to, and guys like De'Aaron Fox. Victor Wembanyama will get to the free throw line. He will take some bad shots. He will struggle at times, but I do think that he's ascending at a rate that is faster than anybody in the NBA, and we just don't know where that stops. I think it will stop before the NBA Finals because, like, I actually think it will stop before the conference finals. I think that they're a candidate to get upset, obviously, but like, hard to really argue with how they've played. They've been amazing over the course of these last few weeks. We will go with Boston at 5. Boston at 5, I think like getting Jason Tatum back is a big deal. The formula that they have had around him has been really great. I don't expect him to play a massive role for them in the playoffs, but they don't need him to. Like Jaylen Brown's been really good for them. I think that Derek White is obviously fantastic. They do have some weakness at big. Nemias Queta's had some really good moments. Nikola Vucevic is still a good big man, but they are not guys that I think you trust. Like defensively, you trust Queta. Offensively, you trust Vucevic, but he has gone dry at various points in his career from a shooting perspective. And I don't think that they have a whole bunch of versatility at certainly a power forward to be able to play small at center. Like they're going with guys like Jordan Walsh in that situation. Like that's not good enough. Josh Minot in that situation. That's not good enough. They needed like somebody like an Aaron Gordon type who could actually slide to the 5 in those situations and give you an advantage. But they might just outshoot you in a playoffs. Like Peyton Pritchard is capable of doing that. Derek White's capable of doing that. And having Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum is pretty good. So I'm going to put them at 5. At 6, I will go with I'll go with Denver here. I think Denver deserves it here. Denver's 9th in point differential on cleaning the glass, but they are definitely a struggle at times. There's definitely places where they really struggle. The defense is one of them. The clutch situations are another, but more than anything, it has been health. I think that they have the ceiling to get to 2 on this list. They can't go over OKC at this point. But like, if you get back Aaron Gordon, you get back Peyton Watson, would anybody be surprised if Denver went on a run? No, of course not. I think a lot of people are kind of building that into their logic, building that into how they think about these teams. I think that Denver is clearly good enough in terms of like having the talent, but it has not coalesced in the way that you would expect. And there are definitely some weaknesses that with each of these individual lineups and combinations that teams can pick and prod at, more so defensively than offensively. But like we've seen Denver really struggle defensively in these situations. So they're at 6. They are not at 7. They're not below that. It's like I still am not going to overcorrect that much. But then after that, do I go with Cleveland? Like, can I even trust James Harden in that situation? Even if he's like next to Donovan Mitchell and they've got Evan Mobley and guys of that nature. Jared Allen's obviously really good. I'll keep them lower, and I'll put Houston above them. Actually, no, I'm going to put Minnesota above them. Minnesota's at 7, Denver's at 6, and I think that's fair based off of the way that, like, I think those two teams will match up in the playoffs. But Minnesota has the talent and the versatility to be able to go at basically anybody. Do I think that they can beat OKC in a series? No. I think they could beat Denver in a series. I think they could beat San Antonio in a series, certainly. I think that San Antonio is probably, like, they're certainly a little shaky here when it comes to, like, that's the perfect, like, Minnesota is the perfect team to take out San Antonio because they've got matchups for Wemby on both ends of the floor. And they've got Anthony Edwards, who's just not going to care, like in any of those situations, who he's going up against. Like Steph Castle's not going to really bother Anthony Edwards that much. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do think that that's going to be that's the 7 to me. So you've got OKC, Detroit, New York, San Antonio, Boston, Denver, and Minnesota. I think that those 7 teams, like, I don't think Minnesota can win the title. I don't really think that. I think that Denver can win a title, but like, so the top 6 teams I think could all win. Do I expect it? No. I only expect like OKC, Detroit, New York, and Denver. I think those are the only 4 teams that can win the title. But like Denver's ceiling is like pretty high, but their floor is just so low right now. That's why you have to put them below some of these other teams, and I think it's rightfully so. So we will see what happens from here. But let's take a final break. Actually, no, we'll go from man down, fans down, which is how you feel. Ryan, do you think experience is kind of overrated after watching OKC win? No, I don't. And the reason why is because they did go through the process the year before. They were one of the youngest teams in NBA playoff history the year before, and then went through that process. And they probably should have beaten Dallas. Like, there's no question in my mind that they should have beaten Dallas. They did have a lack of experience. And one of the reasons why they were in 7-game series against Denver and Indiana was because of their lack of experience, was because Jalen Williams was inexplicably bad in that second round series. And like, they should have been able to take care of Indiana. But then Indiana got them in game 1 and made that a very complicated series. So I do think that experience matters. I 100% do. Now, does it matter maybe less than it did before? I don't know. You've got a changing of the guard that is going on. Like, I didn't put Houston on there because I don't think that Kevin Durant's like going to push Houston over the top. I don't have the Lakers on there, and certainly not the Warriors, because I don't think those teams, despite the playoff experience that guys like Luka Doncic and LeBron James and Austin Reeves have, I don't think that that's going to matter that much. You have to have a baseline talent and a baseline capability. If you don't have that, then you're in an issue. You have definite issues. So we'll see what happens with it. But I do think that San Antonio is the team most liable in that situation. Detroit is another one, certainly. But like, there'll be some other young teams that when they jump in there, like Charlotte is a great example. I do not think that Charlotte's going to match up really well in the playoffs, despite the fact that they have been amazing over the course of these past few weeks and basically a couple months. They've been amazing. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to discuss the roster moves that Denver has made and what that could be leading to. But first, folks, we have had watch parties at Mile High Sports. I don't know. I've definitely put it out there. You should definitely know by now. Our next watch party is going to be March 14th versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Denver's on the road for that one. But one of the main sponsors, we've got Suavecito that's sponsoring it for sure, but Fix It 24/7 is the other sponsor. And I want to kind of promo them a little bit. They've been doing some amazing work, and we are so happy to be a part of their family in terms of who they are sponsoring, who they are putting together. We love what they do. We love what they put out there. They do great work. And we also want to highlight the Fix It 24/7 Heroes program, offering free maintenance memberships to veterans, active duty service members, law enforcement, and first responders. Program is built on a simple belief: those who protect and serve our communities deserve the same level of care and protection in their own homes. Fix It 24/7 is thrilled to serve more than 3,500 heroes across Colorado, and you can find more information about their HVAC services and sign up for one of their memberships at fixmyhome.com. Stay tuned for upcoming Nuggets watch parties as well. You could win some fun giveaways from both the Mile High Sports and the Fix It crew. Fix It 24/7, reminding you that when your house is in trouble, call the Green Bubble. We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, final segment, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Appreciate the love and support on the podcast as always, folks. Okay, final couple of things here, just a couple roster moves to finish things up. I've put a lot of thoughts and discussion into the Nuggets need to fill out their roster. Nuggets need to be taking advantage of the moments here. One of the reasons why I think it's important is because you just never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. You never know who's going to be in a tough situation. You always want to be in a place where you can have the right answer for the right problem. A problem will arise in which Denver is going to have to make something work. They're going to have to pivot from what they were expecting to do. Maybe Jamal Murray gets into foul trouble. Maybe Bruce Brown turns an ankle or something like that. If those situations happen, Jalen Pickett has been the guy that the Nuggets have gone to over the course of these last few months. But the Nuggets decided, hey, why don't we go get another veteran? Why don't we go get another guy that we trust in the pick and roll that has previous chemistry with Jonas Valanciunas and that takes care of the basketball, isn't going to make a whole bunch of mistakes, and can maybe hit a couple shots when we need him to. There's at least a thing there that I think will definitely be a justification for Tyus Jones specifically, who, let's face it, has had a bad couple of years. He has not been great. Certainly this year, he was not good for Orlando. They brought him in as a backup point guard candidate in the midst of, hey, we've got Jalen Suggs, we've got Anthony Black, we just traded for Desmond Bane. We're not expecting Tyus Jones to have to play a significant role, but it would be nice to be able to set the table for guys like Franz Wagner, for Paolo Banchero. Well, Paolo Banchero has been pretty bad this year, and Franz Wagner has been injured for much of the season. They have not gotten, they certainly didn't get from Tyus what they needed when they traded for him. The year before, Tyus Jones was acquired by the Phoenix Suns to be their starting point guard. That didn't work either. Now, in both situations, I give Tyus a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. In Phoenix, as a point guard, when you're sharing the ball with Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant, it can get a little bit difficult. It can get a little bit difficult to get into a rhythm, to set the table for other guys, to play your own game when you have to worry so much about all the other guys and them playing their games and being like, that's a pretty tough job for just about anybody on that team. Like, they needed to forego the point guard position and play with like DeLon Wright or the equivalent 3-and-D point guard who's big and switchable defensively and can do those things. That's not Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones is going to have the ball in his hands. He's going to run pick and rolls. He's going to run DHOs, and he's going to set the table for other people. He's going to set the table for himself. And so with Orlando, you've got a whole bunch of cooks in the kitchen there as well. Not surprised that it didn't work. Now, did Tyus Jones fail? Yeah, he did. It was not a good situation for him to be in. And clearly that didn't work. Does it mean it isn't going to work in Denver? No. We'll have to be open to that. I am not expecting Tyus Jones to be a massive factor for the Nuggets this season for obvious reasons. Denver's got their playoff rotation, but they did make it official that they signed him, that they're bringing him in. He's going to be on the bench tonight. He'll be active, I assume. And so is it going to help their defense when they deploy an undersized point guard? No. Is it going to put them in a situation is this a skill set that they are going to need when everything goes well? No. But there is a possibility that in a pickle, if you have the right matchup, if you have guys that are not going to pick on him on a consistent basis, hypothetically, let's say Denver is facing, let's think about it. Who could they be facing? The Houston Rockets. Let's say they're facing the Houston Rockets. Do you care if Amen Thompson goes at Tyus Jones? I don't. Do you care if he's chasing around Reed Shepherd a little bit? You don't want to let Reed Shepherd go off. But with Houston, the worries are Alperen Şengün and Kevin Durant. Those are the guys that you really have to worry about from that case. I just do not like, I don't like, there are going to be matchups where Tyus Jones can play. And you could just play him when certain guys are off the floor as well. I'm not going to sit here and expect him to be amazing, but I do think that, like, here's the thing, Scam, like, get your head out of the gutter, man. Like, Reed averages 25 versus us. Yeah. And that's with like decent defense. That's like with good guys. Like, what are you expecting? If somebody like a Tyus Jones can really help elevate your offense in these cases, make sure that it doesn't go kaput, then that actually does help you. It actually does put you in a better place, in a better situation. So I don't know whether this is going to be a this year thing, but there's a possibility that it's a next year thing too. Keep in mind that Jalen Pickett's a free agent, Bruce Brown's a free agent, Tim Hardaway Jr. is a free agent. You get Tyus Jones in the building as somebody who has long been a capable backup point guard. If you redefine his role, if you redefine, good Lord, if you redefine what is expected from a guy, and he's not supposed to be a starter and he's just a backup, and you say, okay, you're going to go back to playing 15 to 20 minutes a game, then maybe that fits a little bit better. Maybe it's a little bit of a better situation. So we will see what happens with him, but I do think that it matters, and I do think that he could be very valuable for a team like the Nuggets. We will see what ultimately it looks like, but I do think that this is a good addition. It's not a great addition, but like, you look around at the rest of the buyout market, there were no guys that were going to help them. Zero. Once Chris Middleton was not let go, was not agreeing to a buyout with the Dallas Mavericks, Tyus Jones was probably the next best player. And now maybe there's an argument for some other guys, but I trust Tyus Jones to at least figure it out. Boucher's not going to help them. He's just not. Like, he's also like there's some stuff behind the scenes with Boucher that there isn't with Tyus Jones. And so if Denver's trying to add to their roster without taking away from it, I think Tyus Jones isn't the worst idea in the world. Now, Denver made another move as well. They added David Roddy on a two-way contract, and they got rid of Tamar Bates. They waived Tamar Bates, who had been out. He basically played zero role for the team up until that point, and then sustained a major foot injury that he had surgery on. That's a really tough situation for anybody to be in. It's really, really tough. And I sympathize with Tamar Bates in this situation. It feels a little bit icky to lose your spot on any team, on any roster, due to injury. But the fact is that if the Nuggets are adding Tyus Jones, if they added KJ Simpson, if they already have Curtis Jones on their the back end of their roster, they already have Jalen Pickett. They already got a lot of other guys that can be in the backcourt, handle the basketball, and are a little undersized. It's not the worst idea in the world to exchange somebody that's not going to play for somebody that could. And David Roddy, former CSU Ram, has been around the league for a little bit. He has not stuck anywhere. He was with the Memphis Grizzlies for a while. My colleague over at Locked On, Matt Moore, who's a Grizzlies fan, hated David Roddy's game. Did not like it. Did not think he was super valuable. He was playing a significant role, in part because Memphis had a dearth of talent at the forward spots, and we're just trying to find anybody. Roddy wasn't it for them then. Now, does that mean that he's not it for everybody going forward? I don't know. Like, Denver's going to give him 20 games to figure it out, and the last quarter of the season to see what he can do. Keep in mind that I didn't really expect Spencer Jones to be much of anything. He didn't really play a significant role, and then he turned into somebody that could. Is that going to happen with Roddy? Probably not. I'm not going to sit here and beat around the bush about it, but like, Roddy is somebody that is a relatively smart player, somebody who is physical. He's undersized at the power forward position, a little bit shorter for sure, but he has some skills. He has like a game in which it's a little bit unique. It's a little bit versatile. It's not necessarily like defined for a positional skill set or anything like that. But for Denver, like, they don't necessarily need anything crazy. Now, would it be cool to have a 6'10" guy who can block shots and play the dunker spot position next to Jokic? Sure. But that guy probably wasn't available on a two-way contract. And so they're adding a local guy in David Roddy who could potentially do some stuff. I'm not going to sit here and predict that he will. this is probably going to be a 20-game situation and then into the playoffs, and then he's probably gone after that. But who knows? David Roddy was a former first-round pick, I believe. Somebody fact check me on that. I'm pretty sure that Memphis drafted him in the first round, and there was a reason for it, right? Like, he was actually somebody that, like, look at the versatility, look at the defensive capabilities, look at the passing and the vision and the smarts. He's a good rebounder for somebody who's a little bit undersized at his position, and he has some skills. Like, he can actually score. So I don't know what's going to happen with him. But what I do know is I'm glad that Denver made a move to help bolster their forward spots. They needed somebody who could, like, one of the things that's been happening at the end of these games, if there's garbage time, is that Julian Strawther's been playing in them, that Spencer Jones has been playing in them, that these guys that have been playing a lot, like, have had to play. Like, even if they start in some of these games, because you're not going to play your veterans like Jonas Valanciunas, Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway. Those guys aren't going to close. So you have to play somebody else. And it's often been some of these younger guys in Julian Strawther and Spencer Jones who could contribute to Denver's playoff rotation. So if Denver gets into a garbage time situation, at least having Roddy out there instead of Spencer Jones, I think is it's a very valuable thing, especially Spencer is dealing with a shoulder injury. So, like, don't make it worse. Go get somebody that can actually play. So apologies for Tamar Bates. It's really tough. Like, this is a tough situation. I hope that he latches on with somebody else and hope that he has had the opportunity to rebound or to rehab with Denver and figure stuff out. But ultimately, this is a situation where, as the Nuggets, you have to be comfortable making tough choices, and Denver made a tough choice, and the hope is that it pays off. Okay, folks, I think that's going to do it. I probably spent a little bit longer than I wanted to, but that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends here at Mile High Sports. Thank you for tuning into the show. Game tonight versus the Lakers, game tomorrow versus the Knicks. I'm not going to have a podcast tomorrow here. I will do a podcast on Saturday at number 38, and we'll have a good time with that. Everybody have a good day. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I'll talk to you guys very soon.